that are kept very far away. Also, we'll be learning about how with age some defects occurs in the eyes. Okay, there could be age related defects, or there could be some other form of defects also that is not specific to the age of the person. All right, before we continue further, I just need to get to know, do you guys if you guys are able to recall the things we have discussed from the chapter, particularly in context of human eye. So what do we call the colored part of the human eye? The colored
Iris.
part, it's the iris. Okay, the color of this iris is determined by a pigment. If that pigment is present in higher amount, what will be the color of the eye?
Like black or brown.
Black or brown. And if there is lower pigmentation, lower amount of that pigment is present, then
Blue or
Blue or
green.
green.
blue or green. Very good. Okay. By the way, when we take a look at our eye, only this much portion of the eye is visible. So should we say that cornea is this much in size only, or is it bigger than this?
Bigger. Oh
It's
wait, no.
bigger. No, it is indeed bigger than this. Okay, na? Like only a slight portion of the cornea is visible, right? Getting it now?
Yes, sir.
Further, our eyes, is it spherically, completely spherical, or is it roughly spherical in shape?
Roughly spherical.
Roughly spherical in shape. Good. Further, you guys tell me that the eyes are connected to the brain via the eyes are connected to our
Optic nerve
brain via the optic nerve. What does the optic nerve do?
send signals to the brain.
Basically, would be carrying the signals, or the basically will be carrying the visual information from the retina to the eye, so that it can be processed. Okay, you guys tell me that the image form on the retina, is it virtual or real image?
Real.
Hmm?
Real image.
It is real. Okay, so it is real image, but when it is processed by the brain, then it is
Virtual.
a virtual image. Okay. Further, the image that is formed on the retina, is it upright, meaning that it is erect, or is it inverted?
Inverted.
Inverted. Good. So image from the retina is inverted and real. Later on, when the brain processes it, thereby then it processes it as upright and virtual. Getting it? That is something. By the way, I have a question that is quite um, not from the topic, but tell me that which part of the brain is responsible for vision? They are different. Our brain has been divided into different portions, right?
Hypothalamus.
No, not particularly hypothalamus. Like there are different lobes. Our brain is particularly divided into 4 or 5 lobes. You have the frontal lobe, you have the temporal lobe, you have the parietal lobe, and you have the occipital lobe. It's the
Occipital lobe.
occipital lobe, exactly. Occipital lobe is that part of the brain that is responsible for processing those visual information, and it is located at the back of the brain. Back of the brain. Getting it now? Over here. That is one thing. Okay, let's continue with this. Before we continue, you guys define eye. How would you be defining the eye? If I were to ask you to define the eye, what definition, what suitable definition you'd be giving for this eye?
It is like a sphere-shaped object. It's in the body and it's sphere-shaped and it allows us to see.
Okay. What about you, Ibrahim?
It is a spherical shaped organ and it helps us see through pupil.
Okay, see through people, that is not very suitable to it. Basically, we are saying that we have got so many sensory organs are there in the body, right? Tell me, what are the sensory organs in the body?
Skin,
nose,
Hmm? And
eyes, nose,
hmm? Tongue,
s- tongue, skin,
skin, right? Basically, there are five sensory organs. You have the eyes, ears, nose, skin, and the tongue, right? So first, we'll say that our eyes, or basically an eye, is a sensory organ, right? Which is roughly spherical in shape, and it helps the organisms to perceive the visual information by detecting the light. By detecting the light. Getting it now? And it's quite a complex structure that includes different parts like cornea, iris, pupil, lens, retina, which and all of them are working together to focus the light onto the retina and then send signals to the brain via the optic nerve. That is one thing. Getting it now? Okay, further, the eye, is the eye filled with any kind of fluid? Does it have any kind of fluid? Fluid? Hmm.
yes,
virtuous humor,
And vitreous
focus,
humor. Vitreous
vitreous
humor.
humor,
aqueous humor,
and
aqueous humor
Exactly. Vitreous humor and the aqueous humor. Where is the aqueous humor present?
between the cornea and the iris,
No, no. Between the lens and the cornea. Okay. There it is filled with aqueous humor, and the vitreous humor is in the vitreous chamber. That is between the lens
lens
and
and
the
retina.
retina. Good. Okay, Remy, so tell me, in the nocturnal animals, which cells are present in more number?
bone cells,
Repeat again.
bone cells.
What about you,
Rod,
Ibrahim? Rod cells are present in higher number,
Okay,
no?
yeah.
Because rod cells are sensitive to dim light, so they allows good vision. They provides a good vision to the nocturnal animals during the night. Getting it? Okay. Okay, let's start the discussion then. And also keep this in mind that I'll be asking the questions more. Okay, no? If the topics would be clear, then I'll be asking questions from this chapter light and particularly from the eye. Okay. So human eye is basically the sensory organ responsible for vision. It allows us to see the world around us, detecting light, and by converting it to electrical signals that the brain can interpret. On an average, its diameter is roughly 2.5 centimeter or about 1 inch in diameter. Despite its small size, it is capable of remarkable precision, right? Remarkable precision in the sense that it is able to detect millions of different colors, right? Now, the primary colors are only the red, blue, and the green, right? These are the primary colors. But our human eye is sensitive towards millions of different colors. So, in that sense, it is very precise. We can distinguish different shades of color. Our human eye also enables us to analyze the depth of the objects, the distance at which certain objects are kept away from us. So, in that sense, also, it is very precise. Then also it is also we get to see the details of the different objects, like we also are able to analyze the shape and the size of different 3D objects. You're getting it now? In what sense our eyes are very precise, right?
Yeah.
An important fact, the size of the eyes remains almost constant throughout the person's life even after the birth. Okay, I have one more topic to discuss with you guys, that which part of the human eye is donated? Which part of the eye is mainly donated?
The lens,
No, the main
retina,
part. It's the no, it's the cornea. The entire eye is not transplanted. For suppose if transplantation has to be done, right? It's not like the entire eye. In some cases, it would be done, But normally it's not like the entire eyeball would be taken out from the eye socket and a new eye should be connected. Basically, it's the cornea, the outermost part, right? So that part can be transplanted to restore vision. Hope you guys are getting this topic, okay?
Yes.
The white
Yes.
outermost layer of the eye, basically, that is usually donated, okay? Yeah, that is one thing. So let us talk about different parts of the eye now. The very first part of the eye is the cornea, right? The front bulging portion that you see in this image. Let me erase this thing first for a minute. So the front bulging portion of the eye, it's like a dome-shaped bulge at the front of the eye. That is called as cornea, and it is transparent. It is transparent and having a dome-shaped bulging in front of the eye. So it is that part of the eye through which light would be passing for the like the light would be first passing through this cornea, right? So it is correct to say that light enters the eye through the cornea first. Then as the rays of light passes through the cornea, it will be bent. As the rays of light will be passing through the cornea, it will be bending. See that these are the rays of light that is passing through it. It will slightly bend also. 1 minute. It will be slightly bending also, right? Then it also provides protection to the eye also. It is kind of acting as a windshield also. Just like in the cars, in the vehicles, the windshield would be keeping out the different kind of debris, different kind of dirts. Similar to that, the cornea is acting as the windshield. They will be keeping out the debris, different kind of waste materials, germs, right? In fact, studies have shown that it also filters some of the UV rays. Getting it, everyone? That is one thing. So this is the outermost layer of the eye, right? That is bulging outward. It protects the eye and it also helps in bending the rays of light so that they can land on the retina properly. Hope that much is clear so far.
Yes.
Good. Right after the cornea, which is the next layer, which is the next part, it's the iris. Okay, now. So iris is the colored part of the eye. Iris is the colored part of the eye that is surrounding the pupil. 1 minute. This colored part of the eye, this structure and this structure is the iris. Okay. And this structure is responsible for controlling how much of light would be entering the eye by adjusting its size. Okay, by adjusting its size, right? So this is made up of muscles that will contract and will relax. Due to the change in the size of the iris muscles, the size of the opening, that is the pupil, basically the black opening that you see, the black big dot that you see in your eyes, that is basically an opening called as pupil. So its size is controlled with the help of the muscles of the iris. As the muscles of the iris would be changing, similarly, it will be changing. While we'll be discussing this thing, I told you guys a very interesting fact that just like the fingerprints are unique to every humans now, similarly, iris is also unique to every humans. Getting it, Ibrahim and Ramesh? Just like
Yes, sir.
fingerprints, the iris is unique to every humans. Okay, that is one thing. So iris is basically regulating the amount of light that enters the eye by changing the size of the pupil. That is one thing. After this, you have the lens. Okay. So what is the shape of the eye lens?
Like
Mhm.
oval,
No, the eye lens of human eye is concave or convex.
convex,
It is convex, right? What does it do? Convex lens are converging or is it diverging?
Converging.
It is converging, right? So it will converge the rays of light onto the retina, right? Onto the retina. So the rays of light are actually being converged onto the retina after passing through it, right? So when the rays of light actually converges to meet at a point, so thereby a real image is formed, isn't it? That is what we have learned by definition. When the rays of light will be actually coming to meet at a point, so thereby a real image is formed. So hence a image form on this is real, and also it is inverted. All right, everyone,
Yeah.
getting it? Okay, so it will be bending the light. Further, the location of the lens is such that it is located right behind the iris, right behind the iris, and the shape and the size of this eye lens will be changing depending on the distance of the object that has to be viewed. That has to be viewed. Suppose, for example, you are looking at objects that is kept far away, like this. So take a look at the size, shape and size of this eye lens. Okay, it is stretched out. It is in a stretched out position when you're looking at far off objects that are kept far away from you. So the eye lens is stretched out and is thinner. But when the objects are kept very close to you, so thereby the shape of the eye lens changes. It becomes thicker, and when it becomes thicker, its converging power increases. When it is thinner, its converging power is decreased. So the eye lens can adjust its shape and size in order to enable us to look at nearby and far away objects. And that thing is called as accommodation of the eye, which we'll be revising in a minute. Getting it, everyone, so far?
Yes, sir.
So that is the eye lens. Now, as we have also learned that with age, there can be some defect in the eye. In some cases, the shape of the eye lens can become abnormal. It can be irregular in shape. Sometimes its converging power can increase, or sometimes it can decrease. So that will lead to some eye defect, which we'll be revising after some time. After that, you have the retina, right? So the retina has photoreceptor cells. What are those photoreceptor cells we are talking about? It's two type of cells, namely
Rod and cone.
you have the rod and the cone cells. They are the photoreceptor cells. Photo here refers to light. The word photo, like they are also basically they are photoreceptors. Photo refers to light. Receptor, you guys understand, meaning that the receiver. Okay, so they receive the light. So once the rays of light will fall onto these, so they will become active. They will be getting stimulated, and then they will convert the light into electrical signals and will send it to the brain. So light, for a minute. So the light here has been converted into electrical signals and then being sent to the brain via the optic nerve. Via the optic nerve, it is being sent. Okay. There are two types. One is the rod cells. They are sensitive to more sensitive towards dim light or to low light conditions, basically, right? So it is responsible for providing us vision during dim light. When we enter in a dim room, so we get a white and black vision, basically, because the rod cells at that time are activated. Getting it now? That is one thing. Then we have the cone cells, and with they are named in so because of the shapes. They have a cone like shape, so they are cone shapes. Cone cells, called as cone cells. So they are sensitive to bright light or the colorful lights, right? And they would be providing us vision during the day particularly, and it does not mean that during the night they will not be working. During the night also they will be working, but in the low light conditions the rod cells will be more activated. Getting it now? That is something. So both of them are working together to enable us to view our surrounding, right? Then talking about the optic nerve. The main function of the optic nerve is to carry the, yes, carry the visual information to the brain from the retina to the brain, right? Now, At this point, at the junction of the retina and the optic nerve, the rod and the cone cells are absent. So what do we call this spot?
Blind spot.
That is the blind spot, right? Very good. Okay. Now see here in this diagram, you get to see this one main nerve, right? But this is made up of so much of different nerves are there in this, right? Now it's not like only one main nerve would be there. So much of veins would be connected at this point particularly. Okay. Main function is to provide transmit the electrical signals to the brain and will be responsible for vision very much, right? Because if this part were to be damaged in an accident, the person will lose the vision, right? Now that is one thing. So these were the different parts of the eye.
Which part of the human body?
Blind spot, we have already discussed this, right? Okay. Then talking about the accommodation of the eye. So as I told you that accommodation of the eye basically refers to the capability of the lens of the eye to change its shape to focus on objects that are kept at different distances, right? And we don't have control on it. Just like you don't have control on the breathing, on your heart rate. Can you control the size of the eye lens? Obviously
Okay.
no. So it's part of a reflex action, or you can say it's an involuntary action in your body on which you don't have any control. So it's a process by which the eye lens is able to change its shape in order to focus on objects that are kept at different distances. It is kind of an involuntary action or a reflex action that is similar to the blinking of the eye, the heart, the breathing, the beating of the heart, or the breathing, etc. Okay. Now, in this scenario, you're seeing that the lens thickens to increase the converging power and view nearby objects. So always remember, while you are looking at nearby objects, the lens becomes thicker to increase the focusing power, to increase its converging power. Got it now, everyone? While looking at distant object, the lens becomes thinner and the converging power is decreased. That is also one such reason that since the converging power of the lens while looking at the distant objects is low, hence you don't get a clear and sharp view while you're looking at far off objects. Got it now? Now, what happens as the people would be becoming old? So what happens? The lens of the eye can become thicker and can become less elastic. It will lose its elasticity, and then it can become difficult for the persons to look at objects that are kept nearby. That condition we have discussed is known as presbyopia. We'll be learning about that in a while. But first of all, you guys tell me, how can you spot the blind spot? Yeah, how can you spot the blind spot of your eye? How do you find it? Remember, we had done one activity in the class. You have taken a sheet of paper, you have drawn this dot and the cross. They were 7 centimeters apart from one another, right? What you had to do? You have to close one eye and look directly at this cross, for example, while slowly moving another, um, while you'd be moving it forward and backward towards your eye, right? And at a certain distance, you will see that the dot will start to disappear from your view. So the distance at which it starts to disappear, then you have found your blind spot. And why this blind spot occurs? Because the area where the optic nerve enters the retina, is not having the photoreceptor cells. So thereby image detection will not occur. Getting it, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me about what you guys know about the persistence of the human eye.
So it is when the human is when an image stays in our eye for 1/16th of a second, even if the image passes.
Hmm. That is persistence of vision, persistence of image on the retina, basically, or persistence of vision. So it's the capability of the human eye to retain the image of an object in the eye for a very small moment, for a period of about 1/16th of a second, even if the object has disappeared from our view, right? That is one thing. Okay. So thereby, like, you must have seen the flip book. Huh? If the flip book is being, the pages are turned very fast, so the characters drawn on the flip book appears to be moving, right? Getting it, no? Flip book, all if you understand, no? Like cartoon characters or some sketches made on this on different positions. If it is made to rotate very fast, it will appear as if it is in motion. Similar to this in this one, actually, like in a film roll, if, like, there are still pictures taken on this film roll, right? And they are made to rotate very fast, right? Now they're made to rotate very fast, and it will appear as if they are in motion. Getting it? So persistence of vision is used in filmmaking also. Persistence of the vision persistence of the vision is used in filmmaking also. Okay. Nowadays we have got different technology, but earlier it was used, right? So it can create the illusion of motion, that something is in motion, right? Okay, so earlier when the silent films were made, motion pictures were made basically. So thereby the this thing was basically being used there. Okay, so in most of the films that were shown earlier, 24 frames were made to move per second. Okay, now like it was 24 f 1 minute. It is 24 FPS, meaning that 24 frames of still pictures were made to pass in 1 second, and thereby it gave you a smoother view. Smoother view. Getting it, everyone? Okay, now higher the FPS, higher will be the what do we say? If the FPS is higher, so thereby it will be more smooth. Hope you guys are getting it so far. So
Yes, sir.
persistence of vision was the ability of the eye and the brain to retain the image for a very small period of time, or almost about 1/16th of a second, right? So what the brain does, the brain would be interpreting multiple images, multiple stationary images as one, and it will create the illusion of motion. It will appear to the brain as if the images are moving here, if it is made to rotate fast, right? That is the case. So it's like if two or more, like if different state pictures are kept in front of you, and all of them are made to pass, so it will create an impression that all of them are merged together, and will create a sense of continuity. Okay, hope you guys have forgot it so far.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then we had discussed about the different types of eye defects, and also what are the ways in which it can be cured. Okay, first let us talk about the myopia, also called as nearsightedness, right? So nearsightedness or myopia, this defect occurs when the light rays are focused in front of the retina. It should be focused onto the retina, but see where it is being focused. It is focused on in front of the retina, right? So what is the possible cause for myopia? Either the lens is too strong, or the eyeball is very big. Yes, Ramiz and Ibrahim.
Yeah.
So that is one such reason. Either the eye lens
Sir,
is,
also what if lens is too strong?
if it is too strong, if the eye lens is too strong, it means that its converging power has increased. The eye lens has become thicker. So
Okay.
when it becomes thicker, its converging power increases and the rays of light are focused in front of the retina. But suppose the eye lens is okay, there is no defect in it. But if the eyeball has become bigger in size, is too long, so then also it will be focused in front of the retina. In both the cases, it will be leading to defect. Okay, no, that is one thing. So person will not be able to look at objects kept nearby clearly, right? Because we know that in order to look at objects that are kept nearby, if you to look at this thing when we discussed about accommodation. So when you are looking at the nearby objects, the eye lens would be like becomes thicker and would be focusing the image onto the retina. But if it becomes too thick, if the eye lens becomes too strong, so instead of focusing the rays of light onto the retina, it will be focusing it over here now. Hence, you won't be able to look at objects kept nearby you. So that is the case. Then how can we cure this? Should you be using a converging lens or will you be preferring to use a diverging lens? How do we cure this condition? You guys tell me.
Converging lens.
The converging power, suppose the eye lens has become too strong, its converging power has already increased. So should we use a lens that is converging in nature? Its converging power has already increased. That is why there is a defect in the eye. But if I were to use a convex lens, sorry, I mean to say, if I were to use a converging lens, suppose in this case, convex lens would be the answer if you are saying converging lens, although it is not correct, by the way. If I were to use a converging lens, that is convex lens, the rays of light will be converged even more in front of the retina, even away from the retina, like this. Suppose we have taken a convex lens, that is converging lens basically. So now the rays of light will be focused onto here. So that is going to worsen the condition. So thereby we should be using a concave lens, that is diverging lens. Getting it, everyone? To cure myopia, what lens we use? Concave lens, okay? To cure myopia, diverging lens, that is concave lens is used. So concave lens have a shape like this. Now, as the rays of light will pass through this, it will diverge a little bit. Take a look at this diagram. How the rays of light, after being made to pass through this concave lens, has got diverged. Take a look at the pink rays of light, and then it is correctly focused onto the retina. Got it, everyone? So keep this thing in mind. What is another name for myopia? What's what
Short
is the
sighted.
short-sightedness or nearsightedness? Good. Then in some conditions, what happens? The eyeball can be too. Oh, sorry. The eyelids can be too weak. Too weak. Meaning that its converging power will decrease. It will not be able to focus the rays of light onto the retina. Or eyeball can become too short, and that will, in this condition, the person will not be able to look at objects that are kept far away, right? Getting it now? I mean to say, will in this condition particularly, the person will be not able to look at objects that are kept nearby. He will be only able to look at objects that are kept far away. So in this situation, the rays of light are not again focused onto the retina, right? Why? Because the eyeball has become too weak, or the eye lens has become too weak, or eyeball has become too short, right? So objects that are kept far away will appear blurry, but the objects that are kept uh, uh, sorry, let me clarify this once again. The objects that are kept nearby will appear blurry. Getting it now? But the objects that are kept far away will appear sharp, will appear clear. And in the case of myopia, we have learned that the objects that were kept nearby in the situation, in the case of myopia, were sharp. It was clear. But the objects that were kept far away were not clear. Here it is opposite. The objects kept far away is clear, but the objects kept nearby is not sharp and clear. Getting the difference, all of you? So this condition is hyper hypermetropia. Sometimes also called as hyperopia. So both of them are the same thing. Getting it? So how can we cure this condition? See, the converging power has decreased here. Suppose the converging power has decreased here. Shouldn't we using a converging lens? Yeah.
Yeah.
To assist the eye lens further, we should be using a convex lens here, so that the rays of light can be focused onto the retina. So this is corrected by the help of convex lens that will bring the image back onto the retina. Now, as we were discussing about the eye lens, there I had told you that with age, what happens? The size of the eye lens can become thicker. Okay, it can become thicker, plus it can become less flexible sometimes. Getting it? It can become less flexible. So in this condition, what will happen? Also, the eye lens loses its flexibility. It is less flexible. So thereby it will be hard for the eye lens to focus the rays of the light onto the retina, right? So thereby the person might need to hold the objects at about an arm's length in order to look at it clearly. So this condition is called as presbyopia. So which is basically a gradual loss of the ability of the eye to focus onto the objects that are kept nearby. So it's a natural part of aging. Getting it, everyone?
Yes,
Okay. Now you guys tell me that um what is the difference between what is the similarity? You guys tell me what is the similarity between presbyopia and hypermetropia?
Um, the image is focused behind the retina.
Okay. The main difference. What is the apart from that, what is the main difference?
The
The
difference.
image is found behind retina.
Okay. See, further, like the main thing that we see here now, in both the cases, when the person would be looking at nearby objects, it will give a blurry vision. Okay, now in the case of hypermetropia, also called as farsightedness, the vision is limited to far to like they have a very clear vision of objects that are kept far away. That is the case of hypermetropia. In the case of presbyopia, we also discussed that the person as a part of natural aging process. So the ability of the eye to focus onto a nearby object is lost since the eye lens becomes less flexible. So nearby objects in this condition is also the person is not able to look at it, right? But might be able to look at objects that are kept far away. So both of them share one common thing, one similarity, that in both the conditions it leads to blurry vision and can make activities like reading a book very difficult. Then we have learned about the cataract also. What is the reason behind cataract?
The fogginess of the
Hmm. Of the
uh, fogginess
islands,
of islands. Yeah.
right? Basically, uh, there are protein structures present in the eye. Protein is present, right? So what basically happens? Okay, like as a part of aging or due to some injury, the protein structures present in the eye lens can clog up together. Okay, no, it can clog up together, could clump together basically, right? Clump together and can form a cloudy layer. So the main reason here is the clumping of the proteins in the lens of the eye. Getting it, everyone? Protein structures, I'm saying that they get clogged up. In simple words, you can say that due to the clouding up of the islands, but to be very precise, they are protein structures that clumps together and forms a cloudy, frosty structure here. So it will appear as if you're looking through a frosty or fogged up window. And it is removed by the surgery where the islands is replaced with an artificial lens. Hope you guys are getting it so far. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone recall about what was astigmatism? Yeah. What happens in this case? In some situations, like either due to some accident or like it could be genetic also, by birth also this problem could be there. Main thing is there, main thing in the case of astigmatism is the shape of the eyelids or the cornea could be uneven. It will not be even or will not be curved equally. So thereby, as the rays of light will pass through this cornea and the eyelids, it will be focusing onto the multiple points. The rays of light are focused onto the multiple points. So thereby it leads to blurry vision like this. So due to the uneven shape of the eyelids and the cornea, the rays of light will be entering differently in an uneven manner. And hence multiple image at multiple points the rays of light are focused, hence multiple images will be formed and it will give a blurry vision like this. So astigmatism is a common eye condition that causes blurry or distorted vision. It occurs when the cornea or lens of the eye has an abnormal shape, because of which the rays of light enters the eye unevenly and makes it difficult to see objects clearly at any distance. Okay. Further, you guys tell me how the eyes of the animals are adapted, particularly how the eyes of the nocturnal animals are adapted.
There are an
Hmm.
increased amount of
Daily.
rod cells,
Okay, and
a
continue.
larger pupil,
You should be first thing like they have larger cornea.
larger cornea, and they have more rod cells.
Okay. Larger cornea and more rod cells. Good. Which kind of animals particularly have this? The
Owl,
owls, like they come under the category of
nocturne,
nocturnal animals. Okay. What is the approximate diameter of the human eye?
2.3 centimeter.
2.3 centimeter. Good. Okay. Tell me, mm, the retina has how many types of cells, and what do we call those cells together?
Retina has two types of cells,
And they are together called as
light sensitive cells.
light sensitive cells or photoreceptor cells, right? Okay. Tell me, myopia can be corrected by the use of convex lens or concave lens? Yes, Ibrahim and Ramesh. The eye condition, eye defect called as myopia can be corrected by the use
Concave,
of concave lens. Very good. Okay. What is the near point of the human eye? Is it 25 centimeter, 15 centimeter, or 30 centimeter?
15 centimeters.
15 centimeter, you're saying. What about you?
yeah, 15,
It's 25 centimeter.
25.
Okay, no? And that is also called as least distance of distinct vision. Okay, that is the case. Um, Further tell me, mm, what is the name of the liquid present between the retina and the eye lens?
Vitreous humor.
That's a vitreous humor. Okay. Do human eyes get smaller as we age?
They stay the same size.
Usually, no. Usually, it remains the same till the lifetime of the individual. It remains the same.
Yeah.
Okay, no. So keep that thing in mind. Okay. Explain to me what is blind spot. Uh,
Blind.
Ibrahim, you will be explaining to me about accommodation of the eye. What do
Sir,
you
can you
understand by
repeat?
what do you understand by accommodation of the eye, or simply eye accommodation? What is it? Just continue, Ramesh. You were saying.
Um, the blind spot is the part of the retina where there are no photoreceptor cells.
Hmm. Or basically at the junction of optic nerve and retina in the eye, where the photoreceptor cells, that is rod and cone cells, are absent. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You also have to explain this thing. Okay, you will also be answering about the eye accommodation. What do you understand by this?
Um, a combination of eye is basically the power of the ciliary muscles to to accommodate uh, to see how far the above.
You should be mentioning the islands particularly. You can
Yeah.
Can
mention
I
that
say?
one. Yeah, continue.
So accommodation of eye is basically the ability of the eye to focus from near objects to distant objects.
By changing its
Focus.
no shape, right? So by changing its shape, it can increase or decrease its converging power. Okay. So a normal eye has a power of accommodation which enables the eyes to look at objects that is kept as close as 25 centimeter, right, to as far as infinity. Getting it now? By the way, this is this question that why do we say that the far point of the human eye is infinity? Why do we say so? Yeah.
Is it because um, the island is so flexible that it can keep
Hmm.
stretching or decreasing in size?
Okay. What about you, Brahim? Yeah. Okay. See, we basically say that the far point of a normal human eye is infinity. Like because for a healthy eye, no, the light rays that are coming from very distant objects, like for example, like stars, right? So we always consider them as parallel rays of light when they are reaching the eye, and it basically is allowing the eye to focus them on the retina without needing any accommodation. Getting it? Without needing any accommodation. So effectively, it means that there is no practical limit to how far an object can be to still be seen clearly. Hence, infinity is being used to represent this concept. Getting it? What I'm trying to say. I think you might not be getting it. If you are not, it is okay. Let me know. Hmm? Basically, like general example that we consider here, like that of the star, that are very far away from the earth, but they still human eyes are able to see them now. We're not able to see their exact shape and exact size, but still we are able to have a glance of it. Isn't it, Ramesh and Ibrahim, right? And there is no fixed distance to it. So thereby to make this concept simpler and understandable, we are considering this as infinity. Okay, getting it, everyone?
Yeah.
These questions we have already done, by the way. You guys answer questions from this one first. Yeah. Answer the given questions. The bending of light when it passes from one medium to another. It's basically
Refraction.
refraction. Good. Next, the image formed by concave mirror. It can be
Virtual or real?
virtual or real depending on the position of the object. Skip the third question, answer the fourth question. Skip the third one. It's quite simple. It is always equal. Good. Okay. Is the first law of reflection applicable in every situation, even if it is irregular reflection?
Yeah.
It is. Good. So we have discussed this chapter also. See, in the next class, what we're going